Having his jaw squeezed open by Shawudu and force-fed, Shichingshan choked violently, spitting and sputtering out more than half of the contents, dirtying all of his front. He started screaming and knocked his head forward, toppling the bowl. Shawudu's face was fuming with smoke. He yelled, "Go ahead, keep breaking them. There's plenty more medicine where that came from. You break one bowl, I'll bring you 20 more. I'll keep forcing this down your throat until you drink it." Shichingshan roared, "Can't you just leave me alone? Just let me die." Shawudu said sharply, "I'm your brother. If I don't care for you, who will?" Shichingshan stopped talking, twisting his head away. A moment later, Shawudu sat down on the side of the bed and softened his tone. "I'll go have your fan fixed," he said. "I don't want that fan anymore," Shichingshan said. The Wind Master loved that rare spiritual device of his, that Wind Master fan, and would bring it out from time to time just to play around with it. Even in the midst of snowstorms in the winter, the fan would be fluttered in the wind. Yet now, he said he didn't want the Wind Master fan anymore. Shelian was becoming more and more curious. "If you don't want it, that's fine too," Shawudu said. "We'll use this chance to forge you a new spiritual device." Shichingshan turned his head back again. "I don't want new ones either," he said. "Just let me descend." Shawudu turned to him. "Descend? Descend where?" he asked. "Descend back to the mortal realm," Shichingshan replied. "I don't want to stay in the upper court anymore. I don't want to be a god anymore." Veins popped on Shawudu's pale skinned temple. "What a joke," he said. "Throw away your godhood to descend to the mortal realm? Stop making a fool of yourself. I don't think you understand just how many people in the world want to ascend, and how many officials in the middle court would die to join the upper court." Shichingshan shouted in anger, "That's right, I don't know. I just want to be a drifting vagabond. Is that so wrong?" "I won't permit it," Shawudu replied. "A carefree, drifting vagabond? Dream on. Just then, the color of his face changed, as if a private message had just reached him, passing on some news. Shawudu immediately rose to his feet, his 2 fingers pressed against his temple, listening intently. His face grew more and more serious. Soon after, he turned to Shichingshan. "Stop adding to my troubles," he said. "I'm going to be busy for a little while. I have no time to mind you. Once I return from going through my 3rd heavenly calamity, you won't be able to act up like this anymore." Then he threw his hands up and swiftly left the bedchamber. Once he was long gone, Shelian silently flipped down, pushing at the window, looking to sneak in. However, no matter how he pushed, the window wouldn't budge. Some sort of confinement seal must be set up. He dared not force it open, lest there be some alarm spell cast upon it. He called out in a low voice, "Lord Windmaster, Lord Windmaster." Shichingshan jerked on the bed and turned his head, overjoyed. "Your Highness," he cried. "It's me," Shelian responded. "What's happened to you? I can't open this window. May I come in through another way?" When windows couldn't be opened by normal means, it was easy to guess the method that a martial guard would use to enter a chamber. Shichingshan hurriedly said, Don't destroy anything. There's a spell covering all the windows and doors here. If you force yourself in with brute strength, the entire palace of wind and water will know that someone has come. Unless it's by me or my brother, the doors and windows can only be opened from the inside." "But you're all tied up like that," Shelian pointed out. Shichingshan started struggling crazily. "Your Highness, wait a sec. let me break free of this rope, he said. Shilian watched as his entire person rolled around the bed, sometimes curled into a shrimp, sometimes straight like a steel board, struggling with great trouble trying to break free, and Shilian softly cheered him on. Keep going, my lord. With a brief look, he could tell that the rope binding Shi Chuan wasn't any spiritual device. With the Wind Master's power, it should have snapped with but a hook of a finger. So why hadn't it broken yet? Could it be that Shi Chuan was really so seriously injured that he couldn't even break free of such a simple bind? Just then, an odd movement came from under Shi Chuan's bed, and a hand suddenly stretched out. Shilian was taken aback, in shock, his head exploding in alarm. Lord Windmaster, watch out, he said. There's someone hiding underneath your bed. Shi Chuan's face also dropped. What? He yelled. But just as the words left his lips, a black silhouette swiftly crawled out from under the bed and stood before him, watching him from above. That man was dressed in black robes and bore the mask of a ghost. It was hard to tell when he had hid under the bed, nor what he planned on doing. Shi Chuan was securely trussed up on his bed, writhing all over, trying desperately to break free, and Shilian was blocked outside by a confinement seal, unable to enter. Truly a dire situation. Shilian was just thinking about breaking the window when he saw that man push up his ghost mask. The man spoke with a low voice. Shut up. Shi Chuan's eyes widened. Ming Xiong? He asked. Ming Xiong. My God. Ming Xiong, my good bro. Hurry. Help me loosen these binds. With just one hand, Ming Yi snapped the rope binding Shi Chuan's body. Shi Chuan worked out the kinks in his joints, then crawled out of bed and rushed to open the window. He clutched Shilian's hands and shook them. Your Highness, thank you for still remembering me, he said. Shilian patted his shoulders and gently and skillfully hopped into the bedchamber. Wasn't there a confinement seal on the bedchamber? How did Lord Earthmaster get in? Shilian asked. It's nothing outside my profession, Ming Yi said. Then he seemed to have noticed something wrong. He picked up the rope on the ground, looking it over before he looked up to ask Shi Chuan, how come you can't even break free from something like this? Shilian fixed his eyes on the rope too. Not only was it not a spiritual device, it was nothing more than an ordinary rope. The Wind Master possessed such strong spiritual power. How could he be bound by some coarse twine and still struggle for so long? Shi Chuan's face froze, and Ming Yi suddenly grabbed his left wrist, his expression growing icy. What's going on? He asked. Shilian reached out too to hold Shi Chuan's right wrist. He felt his pulse for a moment, then he became dumbfounded. Lord Windmaster, how did it become like this? Shilian asked. There was not a trace of spiritual power in Shi Chuan's body. Soon after, Shilian guessed. Was it that bowl of medicine? Recalling that bowl of medicine that Shiwudu was trying to force down Shi Chuan's throat, Shilian instantly squatted down to check the spillage. However, Shi Chuan replied, no. It wasn't that medicine indeed. Shilian knew a little bit of medicine, and by its smell, that medicinal broth should have been an anesthetic calmant. Perhaps it might cause drowsiness. Thinking back at the terrace of cascading wine, when Shiwudu grabbed his younger brother's wrist and changed to such an expression, he must have noticed Shi Chuan's condition back then. To feed such a broth to Shi Chuan should have been for his own good, so why was Shi Chuan so adamant in refusing it? No wonder Shi Chuan wasn't answering his private communication. With all that strong spiritual power that he once had completely gone, he was no different than a mortal. Shelian blurted out without thinking, "Lord Windmaster, you've been banished?" Otherwise, how could he suddenly become this way? Yet there were no cursed shackles on his body, and if anyone was to be banished, there'd be no way it'd be covered up. The entire upper court and middle court would have known in no time. Shi Qingshuan's face was pale, and he seemed unable to stand any longer. Shelian helped to support him and asked, "Why did Lord Watermaster tie you up?" Only then did Shi Qingshuan snap out of it. "Right," he said, "my brother. Let's hurry and get out of here while my brother is still gone. Let's talk after we've escaped." Then he dropped and crawled under the bed. Shelian squatted down again. "Lord Windmaster," he called. There was actually a hole under the bed, going to who knows where, and Shi Qingshuan disappeared into it. Mingyi lowered down, ready to go in too. Shelian contemplated, and in the end still decided to follow. However, Mingyi popped out once more. "Your Highness," he said, "don't interfere in this any more." Shelian was taken aback by his words. "Lord Windmaster assisted me generously many times before," Shelian said. "Now that he's in trouble, I can't just stand back and watch." "He's always full of generous words and deeds, but most would stay away when there's real trouble," Mingyi said. "How others behave has nothing to do with me," Shelian said. "Once we figured out exactly what's going on, of course, I'd back off if my help really is unnecessary." Shi Qingshuan's voice came from under the bed. "Are you two not coming? The hole is closing." Sure enough, that hole under the bed was gradually growing smaller. Seeing this, Mingyi swiftly jumped in and Shelian followed. The three crawled around in the tunnel that Mingyi dug, and when Shelian looked back, the entrance to the hole was already filled. Truly magical. He asked in a low voice, "Lord Earthmaster, how did you dig out this tunnel? I've never heard that it was possible to dig beneath the residences in the heavenly capital." It must be known that the foundation of the heavenly capital was not the same as the muddy earth of the mortal realm. It was only after he asked that he learned that the Earthmaster Mingyi used to be a skilled engineer in the common world. In his past lifetime, he repaired bridges, fixed roads, opened mountain paths, constructed houses, and bestowed prosperity to countless many. This was what allowed him to ascend. Now, before any major construction in the mortal realm, before any earth was bored, the people must first pray to the Earthmaster and wish for blessings of successful labor work. After he ascended, he forged a spiritual device, and it was a crescent moon-shaped shovel. Legends say there was no mountain the shovel could not flatten, no tunnel that could not be dug, and no building unenterable. To infiltrate as a spy in Ghost City, his ability was extremely advantageous. If there should be any secret chambers he wished to enter, he could just dig under, and the holes would close up after. If it wasn't for Hua Cheng beating him to a pulp and greatly damaging his spiritual power, maybe he could have escaped using his treasured shovel. In the past, the Earthmaster had never tried using his shovel to dig under any heavenly official's residence, and he wasn't particularly interested in showing off his spiritual device either, keeping it packed away. It was probably a good thing that he wasn't showing it off. The spiritual devices belonging to the officials of the upper court were all of the elegant and beautiful sort, like books and brushes, swords and fans, guqin and flutes. If a heavenly official was to walk around with a shovel all day, it would probably kill the scenery and murder his image. Once he heard the explanation, Shelian couldn't help but wonder. If he wanted his Puchi shrine to be renovated, maybe he should pray to the Earthmaster too? After crawling for a while, Julian heard Mingyi ask Shichingshuan from ahead of him. Was it the Reverend of Empty Words? Julian also wanted to know if that was the case. If it was really the Reverend of Empty Words who injured Shichingshuan like this, if word should get out, it would for sure cause an uproar in the heavenly realm and produce extreme terror. A monster that could make a heavenly official lose their powers in a short period of time and have them fall to become immortal. Just thinking about it, it wouldn't be hard to imagine what mayhem that would cause. Such a serious affair, yet after some silence, Shichingshuan replied, "No matter who did it, this whole thing is done and over with." This reaction was definitely too questionable. If this was a conspired trap, no matter what, the reaction shouldn't have been this, especially from someone like Shichingshuan, who could never be silenced when meeting injustice. Suddenly, a dreadful conjecture came to Julian. Although awful, it could explain everything. Just then, Mingyi suddenly demanded silence. The three in the underground tunnel all held their breath in unison. Mingyi ignited a palm torch and errantly illuminated the grounds inches before them. The other two looked at him. Mingyi seemed to want to communicate via the spiritual array, but Shichingshuan had lost all of his powers now, unable to use his mind to communicate. Thus, he changed his mind and used his finger to write words in the air. Where his fingertips sliced through, a trace of ink was left behind, as if it was thick ink dripped and diffused into water. The other two saw what he wrote. "Don't speak and don't move. Wait." After waiting for everyone to read, he soundlessly blew once, and those words dispersed in the air. There was still some remaining spiritual power that Julian hadn't used up, so he raised his head and wrote a string of words too. Wait for what? For how long? Mingyi wrote, "Wait until the person above leaves." Julian and Shichingshuan both looked up at the same time. It seemed that this tunnel Mingyi dug with his treasured shovel beneath the heavenly capital also passed through some heavenly pavilions and residences. There was probably a heavenly official right above their heads at that very moment. Listening intently, sure enough, there were sounds of heavy footsteps walking around slowly, as if pacing back and forth in the chamber. Listening to those footsteps, Julian determined that the person must be a martial guard. Martial guards possessed 5 sharp senses, and if they should make any suspicious noise, they just might be captured. Shichingshuan couldn't use the spiritual array, nor could he write, and could only move his lips silently to express his accusations. Julian watched him repeat himself twice before he could understand that what he said was, "Mingxiang, why didn't you avoid temples and palaces? Couldn't you have dug under the great Martial Avenue instead?" Mingyi wrote coldly, "There wasn't anyone in this palace before. The great Martial Avenue is full of holes right now." Julian wrote too. "That's right. I saw it on the way over earlier. The avenue is full of holes and craters, some even meters deep. If the tunnel passes through one of the holes, who knows if we might bump into someone when we look up." Thus, the three remained mute, transforming into 3 rocks, waiting patiently for the heavenly official to leave. After waiting for a while, Shichingshuan moved his lips again. "Is that person gone?" he asked. Mingyi shook his head. Veins popped on Shichingshuan's temple, his angry face almost the same as when he was arguing with his brother earlier. He said soundlessly, "Who the hell is dilly-dallying? It's not even the hour for sleeping. And what heavenly official needs to sleep? Is it the bathroom above our heads, or what?" Strictly speaking, heavenly officials didn't need to go to the bathroom either. When his lips were just forming the word bathroom, Julian suddenly felt the hairs on his back stand up. he forcibly pushed the two in front of him over, while using his foot to step down hard to push back at the same time, falling backward. A sharp blade penetrated from above the tunnel, its aura thick with killing intent, and it pierced the ground between his legs.